This is my first time streaming. I think we're going. Joe, are we going?
Excellent. Yeah.
We're going. This is it. We're going to wait 4 minutes. Yeah, 4 minutes for people to hop on. We're here talking about Harrow County. So come on in. Introduce yourself if you're here. Nobody's here yet. We just started. But people will be watching this as a recording afterwards, right? I believe YouTube saves it or something, right?
It should, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Technology. Who knows?
All right. So maybe we can talk about a few of the things we've unlocked so far.
Wow, we have unlocked some cool stuff already. I wanted to start us off with a really good unlock right off the bat. So we start off with a brand new family member, which we're not talking about the families today, but we'll talk about this because it's a stretch goal. But Kane. So right off that, boom, we've got ourselves Kane, a new member of the family that you can play as, adding even more asymmetry. He's got his own unique abilities where he can send fatal nightmares. For those that haven't read the comics, that's what he does. He sends fatal nightmares to people, and it is what it is. It's fatal. Like you don't wake up from that nightmare. And so in the game, you just literally, if you're playing as Kane, you point to somebody that's on an enemy that's on the same colored hex that Kane is on. So we need some sort of connection in that way, in the game at least. And then you drop all the cubes in the tower. And if you have more cubes come out, boom, that haint is dead. Now, you don't get a point for that haint, but it does not even cost you any cubes like it normally would. So that's kind of cool. That's a nice way to get rid of people off the board. It's without the attack action. So that's kind of nice. Then after that, we added a new protector card, a tactics card called Madder Than Wet Hen. And this is a really powerful card because you get a free strengthen, a free move, and a free spawn. And if you have fewer cubes in the battleground than your opponent, you get another one of those things. So it's huge. That's like a whole turn, basically. So that's a really powerful one. We've also unlocked Ward, which is a card for Hester. And we haven't even talked much about Hester yet, so we're going to get to Hester. But this one allows you to... I can't even remember what it does, actually. What does Hester do? Well, we'll get to it. Can't remember what Hester does. Sorry, what Ward does. I had it, and I typed it up in the update. So it's in the update, whatever it is. We'll have to look at it later. Oh, I know. It's free to infect. So you get one free infection. It doesn't cost you any cubes. Usually to infect another haint as Hester, it costs you a cube of the color matching the terrain that it's on. So this is a free one, which is great. A guaranteed infection if you take the infect action. That's cool. And we've unlocked the newspaper, which is what the heck is that? Why do we have a newspaper in this? I think it's really cool. If you didn't read the update that I sent out, basically in my management, we have we have so many comics hidden. Some are hidden on the bottom of the board, and in the shift system there's all these little comics, and I think that really helps flesh out the world of mind management if you're not familiar with it. So we want to do something similar in the Harrow County world, and we decided on this newspaper. Felt very thematic and very in world, you know what I mean, to Harrow County. So you actually will read a newspaper as if it was from that era, and with stories around Harrow County, telling some of the stories about what's going on in this town. Some weird things, strange things are afoot. And so Cullen Bunn is writing all new articles / stories for it. And Tyler's going to be doing little comic strips, and we'll have horoscopes and stuff. It'll be really fun and very on brand. So that'll be a fun freebie that everybody gets now. And then we just unlocked the Heat Press on Townsfolk. Heat Press means that's how they put images on Townsfolk. And on the Kickstarter, we put the sketches that Tyler's done, and then we're going to vote on which one we like, and then Tyler will paint it, whichever one we like. So that's going to go up later on today or tomorrow. We'll put a little vote out on an update, so you can actually have your say about which one you want to vote on. So that'll be exciting. And then up next, we have a Fairfolk offer. So this is another offer you can offer, and this one is a double move. We haven't talked anything about Fairfolk yet, so it probably doesn't even make any sense what the heck that is. But the Fairfolk make offers to people, other players, and when somebody goes onto that nest, they get to take that and use that in some future turn, which is pretty cool. So we are at 4 o'clock now, so now we can go We can go live. Welcome everybody. For those that are here, we were just kind of reviewing our stretch goals while we were trying to get to 4 o'clock. Welcome. My name is Jay, as you can see, and I brought with me Joe. Joe is our customer solution manager. Joe, how you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm good. We're here to talk about the protectors. And so I want to just give you an overview of all the different components that are involved in the protectors, how they work, and some tips and tricks for how to do it. At any point, you can type in some questions along the way, and we'll answer any questions you have. We'll try to make them all about the protectors, not about other things. Although if you have other questions about other things about the campaign, I mean, I guess you can ask, and we'll try to answer it. So the protectors started off with Emmy. If you know anything about the story, if you watched the video, the intro video, you saw that she was born out of the hole in the tree under which the witch Hester was buried. So everyone in town assumed that, you know, being born out of a tree hole that a witch is buried under, that you probably are the witch as well. And she grows up actually not being the witch, even though she does have some powers. And so that's kind of what the whole story of Harrow Count is about identity and trying to figure out who you are in the world. And with a lot of gory monsters and haints and whatnot in this as well. And so she then wants to protect Harrow County, and she starts to collect a few friends that are similarly minded that also want to protect Harrow County. So let's first go through some of the components. I'm going to show you some physical components, then I'm going to share our tabletop simulator mod that we have built to help us test, and we can show you. So first off, this is the protector board here. I'm going to get rid of Joe. Sorry, Joe. See you later. Here we go. This is the really cool art on this one. And this is what happens is, I'm going to start with this side here. As the protectors collect tokens, they put them on here on the appropriate row. And then you can see there are numbers above them. And whenever you choose the ability action jar, mason jar, you get to take that many. And this one is spawn, so you would spawn 3 units. This one is move, you'd move 3, and this one is strengthen, you would strengthen for 2. And you can see it gets bigger and bigger as you get more of those tokens. And I'll show you a tabletop simulator. And then on this side, we have a lot of reminders about things that we'll talk about more when we go into tabletop simulator. But here it says you can't place barbed wires adjacent to each other or on the brambles, and this is indicating your range, that your range is 2 hexes away. Unless you're on a mountain, then it's 3. And then we're going to go into this in tabletop simulator because it's better. And down here you can see what you start with. You start with 1 wild and 3 haints. The little meatball icon is our haints. And this is for chapter 1. And then we actually ask you to flip it over for chapter 2, because here we now the track has cards pick up. Whenever you put a token down, you actually get to pick up cards. And we have a few more rules up in the top corner here that are relevant for future chapters, which we'll get into. And the fact that you also start with 3 cards. All right. So let me show you some of the pieces, and I'll explain them later. But we have Emmy herself, and I'll get into her power in a minute. And we have Bernice, and we have Malachi. Emmy, Bernice, and Malachi. And they have like, this is the retail version where it's a standee. In the deluxe and satchel editions, these are wood, but that's her token. And then she has these little goblin-y red haints. Now these are just 3D printed, so they look pretty neat, but they're going to look even better once they're actually molded. I don't know if you can see it or not. That's kind of cool. It's not as much detail. It'll be more detailed than that, but that looks pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's good. I want to show, now I'm going to jump into the tabletop simulator. And let's go to this one. All right. So here's the same board. Now we've actually updated the board since we've had them printed. So you'll notice that on the chapter 1 side, we got rid of a whole column here, giving it a bit more room for art, because we don't need that extra column on chapter 1 because they had the same numbers on them. 666, the 665. This also had 665, so it was kind of irrelevant to have that there. So we just got rid of it. And then we also changed a few things over here. We used to have on this spot that it costs 1 more to spawn onto a mountain, and through we realized that that was kind of an old rule that isn't really relevant anymore. So instead, we put a little reminder here that at end of turn, you get to move your townsfolk from hex to hex, and I'll explain that more detail about how your townsfolk can get saved. And then we realized we even forgot to put how many cubes you get to start. So everything's getting cleaned up here on the final version, which is really nice. And I can flip it over for the next chapter, and you can see this looks pretty similar with the cards. And up here we'll go into, but it's got that reminder of end of turn. And this is Emmy. We'll go into her powers and what she has as well. And so the game for the protectors, you start on the home hex with 3 Haints. Now in Tabletop Simulator, we're just using meeples, but obviously, as you saw in the campaign page, they're absolutely fully 3D little minis that will be even in the retail edition. So that's cool. And their goal is to save these little townsfolk. Now, the townsfolk in Chapter 1 start on the board. They start in this corner, and this corner. And once you get to Chapter 3, they actually start on this board, and your opponent has to place them based on this terrain type every round, just one around. So that's only once you get to Chapter 3. But this is the main goal, the way they get points. They can get points 3 ways. They can kill off the enemy Haints, and they get a point for that. They could be in the brambles at the end of a round and get a point at the end of a round. So that's ways to get points. Or they can try to rescue these townsfolk. And how they rescue the townsfolk is that if they can ever get their unit, and a unit is either a Haint or a legend like Emmy, we call these tokens legends, whether it's for the protectors, for the family, or for Cammy. That's a legend. Your main figure is a legend. So whether it's a Haint or a legend, if you find yourself that you have a unit on the same hex as a townsfolk at the end of a turn and on a hex adjacent to that same hex, then you can, for free, you can move from here to here, that townsfolk. And that's kind of what this was implying. At the end of turn, you can move as long as that is true. And this is actually even better than that, because if you even had a longer chain like this, if this existed, you could pass this townsfolk from person to person to person. Now, this is a little tricky thing here. This is a storm. This white thing is a storm. And when you're playing against the family, they're going to be playing more of these storms on the board. And the storms are a little annoying for the protectors because it costs them 2 moves to move into there. It costs 1 more move to move into a storm than it does the family. Family doesn't bother them at all. They can move around through the storm as much as they want. So more and more storms come out when you're playing against the family. So that makes that a little tricky of a path. I might be more interested in going up there because that's a lot easier to get around. But who knows? It changes every game. Now, what you're trying to do with this townsfolk is you're trying to get them all the way back to your home hex right here, and that's what you're trying to do. Okay, so that is the goal of the protectors. And let's talk a little bit about how they play. So how they play is they get to choose one of these mason jars on their turn. And so this here is the main one that I'll talk about first, is the abilities. See that shape there? That's the same shape as all of these tokens. And when the protectors take this ability, they go down to this board. And I'll go back to Chapter 1 so we keep this kind of easier. When they take that mason jar, the abilities mason jar, the protectors have to choose one row, 1, 2, or 3, and they have to choose whether to spawn, move, or strengthen. So, and they can only choose one, and they get to do the value that has the number in the top corner based on however many they have. As they're going around, they're going to be collecting more of these, and as you can imagine, that will increase the value to 4, for example, when they have a move token here. This is Tabletop Simulator, so ignore any kind of color differences and whatnot, because and even size differences. I think this will fit perfectly in there, but you get the idea. So then I would have 4 move, for example, and move is very efficient in Harrow Count. I'll just start back over here so we can do a move example. You could move somebody like, let's move him back so it makes sense. Like this, if I had 4 move, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. I can move 4 like that. But move is even more efficient than that. You can actually move everybody from one hex to the next 1, and then maybe I'll move all these people up here for 2, and then all these people up here for 3, and then these people up here for 4. And I can leave people behind, which is really nice. And that's something, as you probably can already gather, is very powerful and for the protectors, because once they can get somebody over to this hex, then all of a sudden now, boom, 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 they can pass it. Oh, no, we missed somebody. We should have left one behind there. Boom, 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 boom. Leave someone there. So that's important. So that's how you move. That's just move. And that's 4. If I were to spawn, that's just adding units. And you can add units to either the hex where your legend is or your home hex. And you can split it up. So in this case, I have 3 spawn. So I could go 1, 2, 3, like that. And as you can probably well imagine, at the end of any action, whatever action you take, doesn't matter, if you find yourself on a hex with tokens, you get to take them. So in this case, I would take this token, and this token, and they go right on my board. So they right in the same row that they match. That goes there, that goes there, and that goes there. Perfect. And increasing all my stats. So now I got 4 spawn, 4 move, and 4 strengthen. Whoa, that's wild. This one here, the scroll one, instead goes on this one. And I'll get to that when we talk about that mason jar. So that's how you use the abilities mason jar. Cool. Makes sense? Anybody have any questions? We have no questions yet? Okay. I'm not even sure how many people watching, but I think it records it so they can watch it later. So
Yeah,
hi, people.
Like we have 5 people.
Oh, cool. Hi, people.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's keep going. So then I want to explain this one next because it's easy. This is called the wild mason jar, and it says plus with a skull, and that's this plus with a skull. And in this one, you gain a wild token. Boom, and you start with one. Now, wilds work really cool in this game because each wild is 1 spawn, 1 move, or 1 strengthen. That's it. So I could use this to move 1 and to spawn 1 if I wanted to. So, which is probably what I would do in this case. I would move 1 and I would spawn 1. That's my 2 wilds. I've used my 2 wilds. Now, I can pass this all the way home, and I get 2 points for saving a townsfolk. Huzzah! And that's what this thing is for. It's a bit clunky in Tabletop Simulator, but you get the idea. We'll talk about that little spoon later on. My favorite part about the wilds is that you do not discard them. You don't spend them. You take one, you use it, and you keep them. Meaning the next round, when you take this action, boom, you're up to 3 wilds. So this gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and it becomes really hard to ignore it because they're really powerful. You're like, man, at the beginning it's like, well, 2 actions isn't that much, but next round 3 is pretty good. 4 is really good. 5 is amazing. So that's one of my favorite actions to take is the wild one because you can also split it up. When you're playing as a protectors and you take an ability mason jar, this first one I talked about, you can only choose one of these things. You're just doing one, but you do a lot of 4 move. The family would be hard pressed to find 4 moves, and we'll talk about family tomorrow. But it's very hard to move 4 if you're the family. But Emmy and the protectors, they need a lot of movement to spread out and to try to get over here. So they need that movement. So this is good that they have this. But the wilds let you kind of spread it out. I could move 1, and maybe I want to add a cube, for example, instead. So this is another way you can add cubes if you don't want to take this strengthen action. That's which I haven't got to yet. That's the last one. Strengthen action is how many cubes you add. So I would add 4 cubes to the battleground. And you'll see that there's actually 6 spots for cubes. So if I added 4, the bad news is that 1 would have to be discarded because you can only have 6 by the end of your turn. Now, what's great about the cube tower is that once these go in, some get stuck in there. So you can kind of keep adding more. But by end of turn, you can only have 6. I will point out a cool new feature with, if you're eagle-eyed, we added this little graphic to the battleground that isn't in the printed version. Just a nice little reminder of how much it costs to kill units. And we haven't got to that yet, but that's just a nice little reminder. So we'll get to that pretty soon. We're almost next. The third mason jar I want to talk about is this hand and a scroll. Hand and a scroll. Now, that is this legend board here. There's the hand and there's a scroll. So I'm going to talk about the scrolls first. The scroll, we start with one printed on the board, and that means we get one of these tokens. And already in our example, we've got another one. So that means every time we get a scroll as the protectors, we get another one of these things. Wicked. That's great. What are these things? These are, on one side, a barbed wire, and on the other side, it's got this path on it. So how do we place these? We're working on changing some of the iconography down here to kind of remind you that these can be placed up to your range away from Emmy. You might remember I mentioned it quickly, but your range is always 2, unless you happen to be on a mountain, then your range is 3. Okay, so you can place this up to 2 hexes away from Emmy, either of these. And if we place it as a barbed wire, where's geez, way up here. This is what's interesting. I find interesting about playing with the protectors is that you don't necessarily want Emmy on the outside. You'd rather have her somewhere in the middle if you can help it. She's more powerful in the middle here because now I have a little bit more range to place this. And so I could place this here, for example. That's 2 hexes away. And what does the barbed wire do? Probably guess. It just means nobody can go on this hex. I can't, nor can my opponent. Nobody can go on this hex. And so that's a nice blockade. It'd be great if it was you're using it to block the last spot that the family needed for a storm, for example. So it means they have to go around you. That makes it annoying for them, which is hilarious. And I'm going to put this back up for an example in a second. Move these guys off for a second. And then let's flip it over. What does a path token do? A path makes it 1 less to move on to that hex. Normally it costs 1 to move onto this hex. Well, now it's free. So now you can just move onto that. And you can move onto that even in an action where you're not moving. Like even now, as soon as I placed it, I can move on to that. Or in a future action when I have no move, if you're adjacent to this, you could always move it for free. Now, the only caveat is that if you're on a mountain, as I said, it reduces it by 1. So you can't move onto the free because normally mountains cost 2 to move onto, much like storms cost 2 to move onto. So if you still would need to pay 1 to move onto there, or 1 to move on to there. Now, another thing to watch out for that if the family is nearby and you haven't used this, the family can also use this path. So be careful about that you don't leave it in the open for them too long. But that's not the only thing that they do. This, if we move there and then I spent a move somewhere else on another turn, and I now have this, the path is also a nice friendly way to get your townsfolk out. The townsfolk can be passed from a unit to a path token to a unit. So they act effectively like a unit when passing your townsfolk through because they feel very safe going down this path. And then boom, you can get them all the way home. So the path tokens are very powerful. Plus, you get to place every one of them. So maybe it was like even like this. Imagine, so on one turn you place that plus that. And you're like, boom, now you can save this townsfolk. That's pretty powerful. The townsfolk. No, where's the townsfolk? There he is. So he posts for free there. It goes here, goes here, goes here, goes here. So these path tokens are powerful. Now, if in a future round you take this action again, you can leave them there. Let's say now in the future round, I'm way over here. You can leave them there, or you can collect them and place them again as either barbed wire or as path or whatever you want. This one can stay there. I can again replace it. I can flip it over because it is within 2 hexes, so I can just flip it over to another side if I want. So that's the only thing. You might have remembered on the board, it says barbed wire just cannot be placed on adjacent hexes. So you can't do this. You can't just kind of create a wall so your opponent can't even get through. So you always have to leave, if you're doing barbed wire, at least 1 hex, so they have to kind of worm their way through. Or you could do paths. Path on a brambles would be pretty powerful because you can move on there for free. But again, if they kill you, then remember your opponent can move in there for free as well. So remember that. All right, so that's that one. I think last is the attack. It's how they attack. They attack the same as a family, so they both attack the same. But how does attack work? So let's get rid of this guy. One of the challenges with playing with the family is that because they're so motivated to make this big long string, they often don't have quantity in numbers when they attack, and you'll see in a minute that having quantity more units than your opponent is advantageous. So let's just do a simple attack from this hex to that hex, and that's what the first thing you do in an attack is you identify that's the attacking hex and that's the defending hex. And so the first thing that can happen is that whoever has more units gets a bonus cube. Let's just get rid of these things for now. Well, no, even if it was 6, you still get a bonus cube because it's only at the end of the round you go down to 6. So you can go over 6 in the middle of the round. And then you might notice on the mason jar, sorry if this is motion sickness, I'm trying to not move around as much as possible. On your attack, this is your attack mason jar, you get a free move, spawn, or strengthen that you can use before or after your attack. And so sometimes you want to use it after because maybe they're, I don't know, on the brambles, you want to attack them, and then you want to use that move to move into the brambles. But in this case, you know what? In this case, I might still attack them and still then also move into the brambles after this. So you know what? I will save my move for afterwards. And then we take all these cubes, shake them up, and we drop them into the cube tower. Now, Tabletop Simulator does not have good physics, so we can't do that here. But I've been doing it on my desk with a real box and then transferring the scores. But let's just say we had, out of this, 4 and 2 came out. So let's go through some combat resolution. 4 and 2 came out. Red attack. So they have more, yes. Do they have two cubes to kill? Because as you saw from our new handy little reminder here, it costs 2 cubes to kill on any hex. It only costs 1 cube to kill if they're on the brambles. That little image there is the brambles. So yeah, so I can spend as red 2 cubes, get rid of those, and I can kill this unit. Boom. And immediately, and we'll just get back to them. Immediately, I would get a point for that. I'm kicking family's butt right now. This is great. And now I still have the same remorse. So if it happened such that, if that was the hex, they had 2 units on the hex and I killed 1, and now there's still another unit there, I still have the same. You need the same or more cubes. So I could actually get rid of those 2 cubes and kill another unit. So there's an advantage to attacking hexes with more units, because you can keep killing if you have the same or more cubes. And then afterwards, I still have that move, spawn or strengthen. I could use it to move and go in here and try to get the brambles point at the end of the round. Again, I could have used it at the beginning just to get myself another cube, because that's a strengthen. A free strengthen is a cube, or a spawn, but my spawn would be, again, back here or over here where Emmy is. And so that may or may not be beneficial. Sometimes it is. Depends what you want to do. But that's how combat works. And the other cool thing about combat is, as you take any of these actions, you turn them over. And when you turn combat over, the attack one over, you'll see there's still an icon there for a punch and a flip. So let's say it was our last turn. You only get to activate 3 of these mason jars in a turn. So I did that one. I did this one. I could continue to attack if I think I have enough cubes and I can do it. I'm just going to flip this one over to do my attack again. And when you do a second attack in a turn, in a whole round, you don't get your free move, spawn, or strengthen. You just get an attack. But if you really need to attack, you can. So that is how all of those work. I'm going to pause for a second if there's any questions that have popped up about how anything works. Anybody ask questions? Not yet, eh?
Nope.
Feel free to type in questions if you have any. This is great, though. I think after explaining all of that, I want to make sure. I guess we'll talk. Oh, I didn't finish talking about the mason jar. I went right to attack. I didn't finish talking about the legend mason jar. We talked about the scroll item. We didn't talk about the hand. So when you do the legend, you can do the scroll and the hand, and in either order. And so the scroll powers up this barbed wire and path token supply here that you get. And that's the same for every protector that you play as. You get this. But now Emmy herself has a unique power. And her power says that she gets to place one of her cubes on every hex that has one of her haints, as long as there isn't already a cube there. So she gets to put cubes on that. What does that do? Well, if Emmy were to ever move into that space, this cube would be added to the battleground. Or if, I don't know, if it was ever attacked, if blue ever attacks this hex, this cube would go into the battleground. And so it's another way for her to protect and strengthen her forces by kind of littering these red cubes all over the place. And it kind of is annoying for the family when they want to attack somebody, but they're like, oh man, you're going to get a bonus cube. I don't want to attack that person. Especially when on the brambles, that's a great time to get a bonus cube on there, because it's a little bit more protection when you're on there. So it's fun. And that's how that works. Let's review a few of the other, once you get to chapter, Joe, am I missing anything from chapter 1?
I don't think so.
So you keep playing that and getting points again for being the brambles, for killing, and for 2 points for saving your townsfolk, of which you start with 3 of them. And the first player to get to 7 points is going to trigger the end game, and then whoever has the highest at the end of the round is going to win the game.
Right. You did mention that the brambles point was scored at the end of the round, right? Not at the end of the round.
That's right. Yeah, good call. To clarify that, that's at the end of the round. Now let's go to chapter 2. Again, if anyone has questions about anything, let's pause and look at it. Chapter 2, you have the ability to change your character. So you have either Bernice or Malachi. Now, Bernice has, if you know the comic, this is pretty awesome, an iron nail, and she has 2 of them. And the Iron Nail says that first, she gets to move any of her haints 1 hex. So she can do this. And we found that this was a necessary thing because the Iron Nail just wasn't powerful enough without this bonus move. And then, if any haint or unit, not even haint, any unit is adjacent to any enemy unit, then you can place 1 Iron Nail underneath 1 unit that's adjacent. So now, because I was able to move here, this is, I'm going to Iron Nail Levi. Boom, like that. And so now now Levi's literally his foot iron nailed to the ground. It's awesome. It's literally right from the comic book. It's so great. What this means is that Levi cannot move unless that character, that player, pays a move. They have to pay a move just to get rid of this Iron Nail token, and then so it's really just kind of slowing them down because the family, once we've talked about the tomorrow, you'll find out sometimes they don't get a lot of move, and so spending a move is like, oh man, I need to do other things with my move. And you can pin Iron Nail down a haint if you want, but for sure Iron Nailing a legend is more painful.
Right,
so
stops their storms.
Yeah, that's right, because they need to, we'll find out tomorrow, but every time a family legend moves, they create more storms. So putting an Iron Nail in the foot can sometimes really upset that. Malachi, look at Malachi. Look at that art. That's so good. He gets this Attack Fury token, and he can, I guess I should put him on the board so we have him. He can spend, or not spend, he can put this up to 2 hexes away from himself, and then he can attack from that spot. So another 2 hexes away from that spot. And so he has to choose somebody to attack. Let's just say this person was over here and I couldn't reach him normally. Normally, I have nobody in range to attack that guy, and I, for some reason, really don't like that guy. I really want to attack him. I can put this down. I can drop all my cubes into the tower, and if I have the same or more, I can kill him. I get a point for it, and I pay the cubes just like normal. So effectively, I have another attack with Malachi that's in the middle of your round. So you get another attack, which is pretty powerful. And with range, because Malachi's fast. He's like, that's the idea of this Attack Fury. Sound effects not included.
That's another stretch goal, right?
The sound effects. Yeah, me doing sound effects for while you play.
It looks like we have a question from Alexander. Can 2 or more units go onto a path token for a free move on the same turn?
Great. Yeah, and actually, you bring up a good point. There is a limit of how many units can ever be on a hex, and it's 4. And it's 4 of the same colored units. I never mentioned this, but you can never go on the same hex as your enemy unit, ever. Until Hester's involved. Only Hester can do that. So we'll save that for another live stream. But yes, so if I was in this situation just like this, I could do this and this and this for free. So hopefully that answers your question. So you could put, and I could do this, and oh, that's not a unit. So yeah, anybody that's adjacent can move on to that for free. So that's a great question. And that is not all with chapter 2. In chapter 2, this is when we flip this over. Oh man. And this is when we get to the cards. So let's go through some of these cards here. This is where I think a lot of people think this is where the game starts to really shine, because the cards really add that tactical aspect of like surprise and what, how do you do that, and being able to use these effectively. And so we get to start the game with 3 of these. So let's just say we started with these 3. I don't know what they are. And we have, oh, this is the one we just unlocked, Madder Than a Wet Hen. Yeah. Oh, I got to put some of these out. Some of these we don't have yet. Don't look at that one. I'll have
to your point though, Jay, I think when the cards come out, when the bonus tiles come out, it's a lot more tension in what do I choose? What's a good move right now, or what's a good move to set me up 2 moves from now?
Exactly. Good call out, Joe. So the Madder Than Wet Hen, we talked about that a little bit on their stretch goal. Strengthen 1, spawn 1, move 1, and if you have fewer cubes in the background, you gain 1 more of those. That's a huge card. Over Yonder, give your legend up to 3 movement points, but they cannot bring any haints with them. So this is a great way, because sometimes, as I said, you get your legend kind of stuck in this corner. Maybe also you have a bunch of these cubes on the ground, like this. So now I give myself 3 movement points. Well, this would be free to move on to here. And then I give 1 movement point. That's free. 2, 3. I can get all the way home from here with these 2 paths. And these go into the battleground because I move through them as Emmy. So that can be really huge to get far. And a rally, strengthen for up to half your strength value. Round up. So 4, I do 2. I get to add 2 more cubes to the battleground. Oh, maybe I might wait till I get my 5th one, then I'd get a 3rd cube. Which is fire. Place any 2 ability tokens from the supply onto different empty hexes on this map. So from the supply, you would take, I'll just copy and paste one. Like maybe I want one of those, or maybe I want one of those. And I'm like, I'm going to put one there, and I'm going to put one there. And then on my next turn, maybe I'll go get them. So that's another way for me to increase my tracks. Yaller Dog. Move up to 3 enemy haints within 3 hexes of your legend. 1 hex closer to your legend, ignoring extra costs for storms or mountains. 3 enemy haints. Wow. That's pretty cool. So you can move them all, but they all have to be closer, so you're actually pulling them towards Emmy or whoever your protector legend is at the time. Spirit Trap. If any of your units are on a hex adjacent to your enemy's legend, use half of your wild tokens round up. Oh, so I'd have to, so that's a bit risky. As long as I have a unit next, and I do right here, I have a unit next to this. I got a lot of legends on my dear. Next to my enemy's legend, then boom, I can use this. So some of these cards require you to make it the effect happen by doing something like getting next to them. Perform 1 wild action, so you get a spawn, move, or strengthen, and activate the first level of your legend track. The first level, oh, I get to move one of my barbed wire or path tokens. That can be a real big surprise when I'm doing that during an attack move or some other move, and then I play this and I'm moving this all the way over here. What? I didn't know you could do that. It's great. Laying out all night, +2 range. Now, immediately, everyone probably thinks this is great for attack. But I will say, imagine playing this on the round where you're playing your barbed wire and your path tokens. Now you can place them up to 4 hexes away. These things, that can be really huge. That's really huge. Holler. Move 2 enemy haints that are each adjacent to your legend, 1 hex each. Or move 1 enemy haint that is up to 2 hexes away from your legend, 2 hexes. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's basically if you got 2 people adjacent, you can move 1. If there's nobody adjacent, but somebody's 2 away, you can move up to 2. This is a great way to get somebody off the brambles. That's for darn sure. Hunting vision. Before choosing a mason jar action, you got to do this. Play this card. This turn, you can activate 2 mason jar actions. Whoa. You got to complete 1 before you start the second, but you do not gain the bonus tiles this round. Oh, this is interesting. This is a 1 card that actually doesn't, in Chapter 2, there aren't even any bonus tiles. So this is great. This is great for Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is still considered a learning game. Once you get to Chapter 3, which we'll get to in a minute, you'll see there's bonus tiles coming. Oh, look at the art on this one. Look at that. Oh, I love that. That's so gross. Gumption. Spawn a haint on a hex with a townsfolk. That can be really great. So that if I'm trying to get there, and I'm like, I can just spawn a person here. Now I don't have to get across here. Maybe I use one of these. I have a range of 4. I can put that there. Like, there's a lot of interesting combos with all these different cards, which is wonderful. Deadshot. Take 1 ability token that is in a straight line from the flat side of the hex where your legend's located. Immediately add it to your faction board. I think a lot of people miss that immediately. This card can be played at any turn, but is really powerful if you play it during the turn that you took this action. Why? Because where's Emmy? So I could take something in a straight line. So I could, this would be gone by now. So if I really want more move, I could take that one, right? Because that's in a straight line from Emmy. Or I could take this one or this one or this. Let's say I'm taking this one. Immediately add to my board. Boom. Now I'm up to 4 move instead of 3 this turn. Usually you can't add things until the end of your turn. So this is wild. You can do it right immediately. So did you even know that one? Because I think that, I don't know if this has come out or not, or in our playtest. But
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that yet.
Or it came out, but it wasn't on a turn when this was activated. You know what I mean?
True. And one other thing, I don't think you mentioned it. The protectors play a card every single mason jar action.
Oh yeah. Look at this. That's what that little 1 in a black thing is. That's a card. Meaning you can play one card, and the other one was down here. 1 card every single time you play this. You can play 1, and we'll soon see for the family. Boom, 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 boom. Only play 1 card around. Whoa, that's not fair. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Conjure the Dead. Spawn up to half your spawn value round up. this is spawning is really important for the protectors. They need a lot of units to create these long paths. Like getting from here to here is fine, but what happens if this? How are you going to get to this one? You already have this long, long path. Now you need more units to get all the way over here. So units are really great. So spawning is wonderful. Blowing up a storm. Your legend walks over an adjacent storm hex directly to the opposite side of that hex, even if it's on a mountain or storm, but they cannot bring any other hints with them. So this can be a sneaky move. Right now, no, I'm blocked by this person. I'd have to have 1, 2, 3 moves to get over here, but I can, oh, that's not a storm. If there was a storm here, I can just jump over this like that, which is wonderful. And what's even also more wonderful is that it could be save me the cost of going in a storm. So this normally would have cost me 1, 2, 3, 4 movements to get into this space. But with this card, boom, there right away. Big surprise. It's always a big surprise. And banish, move up to 3 of your enemy's cubes out of the battleground until the end of this turn. Out of just a turn. So this is only good on a turn in which you're attacking. You move them out, you attack, and then they get them back in at the end. So that is all of chapter 2. So now let's go into chapter 3. Chapter 3 isn't specific to, there is one thing specific to the protectors, but these bonus tiles come up now. And so this is a good opportunity for me to explain what you do. So these are up here. Now, the first player to choose an action, any of these actions, gets this bonus, and then it gets flipped down and the other player doesn't get it. And that's a huge one. This we're actually changing the art on this one. I have a plus here, but this means you get to add another wild token. You don't get to activate your wild tokens. This is just gain a wild token when you take this action. So that's really powerful. I really want to do that this turn, which really changes your motivation to be like, oh man, I was gonna wild's not bad too because I get a free move out of it. And what is this thing here? Well, now we're going to talk about the spoons. You might have heard me before saying that every time you kill somebody, you get a point. Great. But not in chapter 3 and beyond. Chapter 3, when you kill somebody, you do get a point, but then this spoon has to rotate up like that to point at the 2. And now you need to kill 2 units to get a point. And as you can imagine, kill those 2 and you get a point. Now you have to kill 3. So it gets harder and harder to get points from killing. And we did this to make people focus more on these asymmetric objectives. And that's where the fun of the game is. We found out that if not early on, it was actually still quite late compared to the whole development of this game, that one player really just focused on attack a lot and got a lot of points from attack, but it wasn't as fun of a game because they just kind of turtled and attacked a lot and wasn't very fun. So that's when we had to come up with some way to kind of motivate players to focus on their other objectives. And that's this has been wonderful. But that said, there's ways to mitigate that. This here, if you take this bonus action, this lets you rotate this back down, and that can be huge if you're doing a lot of attacking. So this can be very powerful. That's a free spawn.
Jay, one quick thing with that. Let's say that you are at the 2 kill point where the spoon is now, and you have 1 killed haint. So
which you put on the plate to show that you've killed one like that.
Yep. And then you chose that that bonus tile there.
And
so
I flip this down.
Yep.
If I rotate it down, and oh, look at that. I've got myself already have 1. So boom, I get a point. Oh, I'm at 9. No, let's just say I'm at 3. I'm at, what's this, 2? I get a point. So now I'm at 3, and now this has to go back up.
Yep. So that's a great combo, and you might not even want that particular mason jar there, but that's an easy extra point for sure.
Easy point, yeah. Exactly. This can be, This sucks to take this when you haven't killed anybody yet. You're like, damn, I really want to do this action, but I haven't killed anybody yet, so I can't really take advantage of that. But sometimes you do it so your opponent doesn't get it. If your opponent's sitting there with a kill and they're like this, you're like, oh man, I don't want to give him a free point. That's giving him a free point if he gets that. So that's where this really gets tricky and fun. Like you got to really think about it. Now, the other big thing about chapter 3, which we consider to be pretty much the basic, the full game, the complete game, is that your townsfolk do not start on the board. Chapter 1 and 2, they start in those 3 spots. But for chapter 3 and beyond, they start here. And we haven't got to the family, but their buildings would start over here. And what does this mean? At the beginning of every round, including the very first round, your opponent chooses one of these and puts it on a hex matching that terrain type. So at the beginning, they might go, I'm going to take this one and put it there. So now I'm forced to kind of go in this direction because I want to get that person. And then at the end of that, I'm really over here. Then now the next one, the person might go, I'm going to take this one and put this one over here. You son of a gun. Now I got to get all the way over there. And then based on where I am at that point, then they have to place a third one on the third round and a fourth one. So it becomes a very dynamic. And this to me is where the game really shines in placing this, because you, with all of these things kind of together with the hint killing is really important, the bonus tiles, and these placing of the townsfolk per round. Really, I think this is where the game now starts to shine.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah. But we thought we tried playing it with some new people just at chapter 3, and it's just too much. And so kind of like in my management where we have the training mission, we wanted to do the same here. Now, if you're an uber gamer, maybe you can start at chapter 3, but I still would say start at chapter 1. Maybe you can just skip chapter 2 and go straight to chapter 3. I think a lot of uber gamers could probably get away with that. But for people that aren't uber gamers, just stick to the 3 chapters. Generally speaking, you could play chapter 1 for a long time, and if you're happy with it, it's great. And then just eventually go, you know what, let's add those cards in. And I want to play with Malachi now. And then you can start with chapter 2 and play that as long as you want. And then you're like, let's do it. We're going to chapter 3. And then that's when it starts to shine, I think. And yeah, it's good. I didn't mention this little, I just noticed here is lantern. This is the start player token. In chapter 1 and 2, Emmy starts with it, or with the protectors, whoever's the protector. At the end of a round, after 3 mason jars, it gets given to the other side. So it alternates who's the start player. Once you get to chapter 3, players alternate turns flipping these up. And in this case, the start player token did not come up. So then we just kind of keep taking turns. I'll take a turn, and then he'll take a turn, and then I'll take a turn. There it is. So I would start with it. These would just get shuffled back in. So that's how we decide who the start player is in the future. I want to talk one more thing about another thing that the protectors can do. So that's the 3 chapters. Once you get to chapter 4, you're still playing exact rules we just talked about. Same with chapter 5, exact same rules we just. So the protectors stop advancing in their capabilities at chapter 3, with the exception that, I mean, now you have new characters to play with. Maybe there'll be some more we can unlock if we, if we can get there. Here's something else we can unlock. Watch this. Take this thing out. This is a new legend track, and this can be unlocked with the puzzles of Harrow Count. So if you check out the puzzles of Harrow Count on the page, this is just a fun little puzzle that if you can solve it, you have to post a little image on social media, and we're going to keep tracking them. Enough people do that, we will print this on the other side of this board, and it's a brand new track. What does it do? It says it is. Oh, this is in the wrong spot. We had a typo here, so he has fixed it. I forgot to upload it. So this little arrow thing is on the actually on the townsfolk. This says when I take the legend ability jar action, it says pull. So imagine that arrow is right here. Pull a townsfolk 1 hex closer to your legend. The P stands for protector legend. So it's to your protector legend. Okay, great. Boom, pull it. That's great. If I power it up, my townsfolk can now collect ability tokens on the spaces that they're on. Great. Powered up one more, and it says now my townsfolk can push any haint that it's adjacent to it 1 hex. And one more, I can push any haint anywhere on the board 1 hex away from my townsfolk. And it's any haint. The white haints, the white meeple shape means any. So that can be powerful for 2 reasons. I could push. I could, in this case, where's I could push this. So this is, let's just even set something up here. So I could pull him one. There's Emmy. Pull 1 step closer. Boom. That's great. Get off there. I could push this unit 1 away. So he also gets to collect this token if I have enough things. That's great. I push this unit onto the brambles and see if anybody else on the board I want to push. If there was like I don't know, somebody in my way, maybe somebody was here. I'm like, get off my home hex, and I could push him off my home hex or something. So that's pretty cool. So that's unlockable if we get enough people doing the puzzles. And
Jay, you do each one of those if you're powered up.
Yes,
you have all 4 scrolls.
All of them. Yeah, it's cumulative. That's right. That's right. So in that one, I did pull my townsfolk. I did collect a token. I pushed one of my units, and I pushed one of my enemy units, but it could be both my units, whatever. So it's pretty powerful. And so you don't get these barbed wire path tokens though. It just adds a whole new way to play all your protectors. So talk about replay value now going up through the roof. That is it. And I think that's all we have, unless Joey can think of anything else.
Not quite. Do you want to maybe go through a couple of the bonus tiles? I know that's not particular to the protectors.
Oh, the other bonus tiles. So we talked about these four. The other ones are draw a card and discard a card. That is more powerful, I find, for the protectors because their cards are situational. Yeah, I don't need that right now. Ooh, I do like that one. So this is great. Not as powerful for the family, so that's great. Take the start player token. This one can be really tricky because if I have the start player token and I choose this, nothing really happens. I retain it. I hold on to it. So it's not that exciting. But if I don't have it, so I take this action, I get the start player token, I do this action, and now it's my turn again. By taking it from your opponent, you can get 2 turns in a row. Everyone still gets to activate 3 mason jars, but you've just changed the turn order. And still at the end of the round, now you have to pass it back to that person. A strengthen free cube, and move your legend 1 hex. The triple arrow is an icon we're using to mean ignore. If there's any extra cost for mountains or storms, ignore it. So you can move your legend 1 hex. So if there was another, whatever I want to do. And I should mention, we're updating the art for this. You might see it elsewhere. There's going to be art right in the middle here saying that a townsfolk does not like going on the brambles. So you cannot escort. Oh, he's this guy. If this guy was here, you cannot escort through. Even if this was here, you cannot escort the townsfolk through the brambles. So you have to move around it. And as we'll learn tomorrow, the family also cannot place storms on the brambles. So it's kind of fair for both you guys. Awesome. Any other questions from anybody, Joe, or from anybody?
Not from me. It doesn't look like we've got any other in the chat there.
Okay. Well, that's it. Thanks so much, everybody. We're going to do this again tomorrow. We're going to review all of the family. And I think the day after that, we're doing Cammy, I think. And then next week, we're doing Hester. Then we're going to do the Fair Folk. We're going to do solo mode. What? A solo mode? You heard it here, folks. We're going to be announcing that, I think, later tonight, the solo mode and when we're going to be able to unlock that. We do need a lot of other things to be unlocked because we use cards, all the cards, in order to play. I'll explain this in an update. You'll see. That's it from us. So thank you, everybody. Joe, thanks for hanging out with us and helping us out.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.